First up, though, yet another absurd taking of offence and an absurd apology. Ben Broadbent is a Deputy Governor of the Bank of England. He was on the front page of the Daily Telegraph yesterday after he gave an interview about the economy. And he said he thought the UK economy was entering a menopausal era. He basically said, that it was no longer potent. Cue mass outcry that this was ageist and sexist. It implied, of course, he did say that the economy was past the peak and no longer so potent. Now he's had to issue that apology, saying that it did convey ageist and sexist overtones. He says, "I recognise that while these are economic terms that have been used in the past, my use of the word menopausal conveyed ageist and sexist overtones, and I should not have used it," he wrote on the bank's internal website. He said, "I was attempting to explain the meaning of the word climacteric," never heard that one either, "as the two was interviewing me has subsequently tweeted. I made it clear in the interview that this is a term which applies to both genders." He said he wanted to emphasise how sorry he was for the offence his interview had caused to bank colleagues, and he issued a public apology for his poor choice of language and the offence caused. Let's talk about this with Natalie Collins, who's a gender justice specialist and founder of Spark, which helps communities to prevent and respond to violence against women and gender justice. Natalie, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, I have a funny feeling this is going to be quite feisty. Natalie, do you have a problem with him using the term menopausal?
I think it's interesting that you described it as a mass outcry, because from what I can understand of the case is what's happened is he said this and his colleagues who he works with have said that's problematic, and so he said, "Oh, I really apologise for that." So I don't.
No, there are loads of women bleating about it on Twitter.
I mean, I think it is problematic, and I think it's problematic because our language is not value neutral, and in a society where childless and child-free women are often demeaned and judged and pitied, and where women, are often sacked from kind of very high-profile roles once they kind of get age, and the way that we see women who are older in society being devalued, I think it is a real problem to use terms like menopausal in a way that infers a lack of productivity.
Well, it also infers a lack of fertility. I mean, if she did say, he used the phrase, "they're past their peak, no longer so potent." So if he'd said that the economy was impotent, that would be about men. No man would have been offended by that.
I think it's about the wider context in which women are demeaned.
Are they? I'm 50. I'm not menopausal yet, but I don't feel demeaned. Most women I know joke about the menopause, for goodness sake.
I think that if you look at society, we have an issue with ageing, particularly women ageing, being a problem. And so, the beauty treatments that women can get, the wrinkle removal, all of that stuff is aimed at prolonging youth for women.
Yeah,
there is an entire
because women are obsessed with looking younger.
I don't think women are obsessed in and of themselves. I think they're obsessed because they live in a society which says they should be obsessed. Nobody kind of, as a child, nobody thinks, "Oh, I shouldn't get old." It's only as we get older and we see that society doesn't value women.
Loads of men go off and get hair plugs and dye their hair as well as women dye their hair. Most of us are obsessed with trying to look younger, or just to keep the looks that we associate with ourselves when we look in the mirror. We want to stay the same age. There's nothing sort of like about women being downtrodden. When I put hair dye on, it's not because I'm downtrodden. It's because I don't want my greys to show.
I mean, I haven't said anything about anybody being downtrodden, but I think you couldn't argue that men and women. I don't think you can argue that men and women are modifying their appearances at the same rate in society. There is so much more pressure on women to look young than there is for men. When a woman is old and single, she's a haggard old spinster. When a man is old and single, he's an eligible bachelor.
I think those views are actually changing quite a lot. I mean, and again, that was from a bygone era when women were only valued for their ability to be fertile. They couldn't earn money. They couldn't do anything else. They weren't allowed in most professions. And the world is very different. But I think we should stop judging the world as if we live in the 1950s. We really don't anymore. But this is my thing, is that women talk openly about how, with lots of women now saying, we should be more open about things like periods, things like the menopause, and women talking about the issues that affect them. And then when anyone else mentions anything to do with it, it's like, "Oh, that's outrageous, that's sexist." I mean, what are men allowed to say?
Because I'd be really happy if the Bank of England's deputy governor decided that he wanted to participate in a campaign about greater visibility for older women and making more literacy for women about their own bodies, about the menopause. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about somebody seeking to increase the positive attitudes to postmenopausal women. We're talking about somebody using the word menopause to infer that something is past its peak productivity, which is a problem.
Well, no, past their peak productivity, as in being fertile. Like, I'm not menopausal, but I'm not fertile. I've not had a kid since I was 38 years old. I'm not fertile. I'm no longer productively fertile. In what way is that shame? I mean, that's a great thing. I'm not going to get myself knocked up accidentally. I spent most of my adult life trying not to get knocked up, for goodness sake. Why on earth? Well, it seems to me it is women who are conferring this negativity around the menopause, and have implied this. As you said, this is an economic term that people actually use. They use this term about the economy. How have we got to a stage where women are so empowered? I say to my 11-year-old, there has never been a better time to be alive. You are the luckiest generation of women ever to have existed on this planet. And yet women have the time and energy to get offended by some deputy governor of the Bank of England no one's ever heard of using the phrase menopausal. I mean, seriously, if you've got time to get bothered by that, your life's pretty darn good.
I think that, I wish that I could say to my daughter who's 15 that this is the best time to be alive.
You don't think it is?
But I just don't think.
Why
no,
not?
I think pornography, the reality is that pornography leads to the fact that most girls think that it is normal to be brutalized during sex. The sexualization and objectification of women is absolutely rife. If you look at the US election and the way Hillary Clinton was treated versus Donald Trump, we have issues in society, and those issues change. Yes, women can work, but actually, no, men are not doing more work in the home. So we see that things change and women's lives improve.
I will accept you. The sexualization, the pornography side of things, I think that's damaging to boys as well as girls, actually. That is a worry for me. But you talk about men aren't doing more work in the home. Ladies, if you don't want to, if you want your bloke to do half of what's done in the home, stop doing his stuff. Stop washing his pants. Stop ironing his shirts, and stop buying enough food for two of you in the evening. It's really so. I tell you what, my husband always knows when he's in the doghouse because he will find a very full laundry basket of his stuff. It's very, very simple. I do not understand if you are in a marriage and you think that the housework is separate, is done unfairly. You need to sort out your marriage. It is not a problem with sexism in society. It's your inability to, frankly, sort your own marriage out.
It's just not that simple.
Yes,
this idea that we all it's just not as simple. We don't all exist in a vacuum where we make our own choices, not influenced by other things.
Or don't marry men who think it's your job to do all the housework.
Well, of course. I wish it was that simple.
Do what I do. Hire someone to do it.
Well, this is it. I think the thing is that actually, as women, we are socialised into thinking that it is our responsibility to do those things. The amount of women who think they have to do all the birthday cards, all the presents, they have to do all the housework. No, it's not women
think they have to do it. Women are the only people who care about it. It's my husband's birthday on Saturday. Anyone who's a regular listener will know the fuss I've made of my 50th. My husband's birthday on Saturday, genuinely, didn't even have a meal booked. If he gets a card and a cake, he'll be over the moon. He could not care less. And I've got to be honest, I've yet to meet a man who could care about these things. Women only deal with these things because it's only women who care about them.
I don't think that's true. I think, I'm in a position, my husband is full-time at home with the kids. He does the housework. He looks after the kids.
Well,
but actually, that was because when we got married, he very much said to me, no, you're not going to do it all. I'm going to do half of it. But I didn't know that I had the right to say, no, you do half of it.
You didn't know you had the right to say? Who brought you up? Were you brought up in a 1950s American sitcom?
Well, no, but I think the thing is that regardless of what we would like to think that every woman knows that she doesn't have to do everything, that everything's, but actually I think these roles are still quite fixed. We still assume that girls should, we're buying dolls for girls and kitchens for girls, and we don't do that for boys in the same way.
If I'd had a boy, I'd have bought a kitchen for him.